The resurrection of Ali Shamkhani, Iran's masterclass in counter-propaganda. The story of Ali Shamkhani's reappearance after being declared dead is the single most compelling example of Iran's sophisticated information warfare strategy. It is not a mere curiosity, it is a deliberately executed plot to reverse a significant intelligence defeat and turn it into a political and psychological victory. 1.1. The anatomy of a SIOP, a multi-phase campaign. The Iranian regime did not simply announce that Shamkhani was alive. They rolled out his resurrection in a series of carefully managed phases designed for maximum impact. Phase 1, Sowing Doubt, June 13, 20. The initial period of unclear information followed by a clarification from state media that he was seriously injured was the first step. The intention to immediately muddy the waters. It shifted the narrative from a clean, successful Israeli assassination to a messy, failed attempt. It bought time for the regime to plan its next move. Phase 2, The Written Word, June 20th. The publication of a message purportedly from Shamkhani to Khamenei stating, "I am alive and ready to sacrifice myself," was a clever intermediate step. The intention, it provided proof of life without revealing his physical condition, maintaining an element of mystery. The message itself was pure revolutionary rhetoric, reinforcing his loyalty and framing him as a selfless martyr in waiting. Phase 3, The Visual Proof, June 28th. The release of photos showing him at the state funeral was the first visual confirmation, the intention to provide undeniable proof to the world that he was, in fact, alive and mobile, directly contradicting the most dramatic claims of the enemy. Phase 4, The Televised Performance, June 28th. The IRIB interview was the culmination of the entire operation, a masterpiece of political theater. Every detail was curated. The props, cane breathing device escort, these were not signs of weakness but carefully chosen props. They served to validate the story of a severe attack and a miraculous survival. They made his story credible. He wasn't just hiding, he was genuinely wounded, which makes his survival all the more defiant. The setting, the destroyed home. The video of his completely destroyed home was the perfect backdrop. It provided visual proof of the lethality of the attack, amplifying the miracle of his survival. The narrative, "Prayed my morning prayers under the rubble." This is a powerful, religiously resonant image designed for a pious domestic audience. It frames him not just as a political survivor, but as a man of faith whose piety sustained him through a near-death experience. The final hook, "I know why they targeted me but cannot say." This is a classic intelligence operative's line. It creates an aura of immense importance and secrecy. It suggests he holds knowledge so vital that the enemy was willing to launch a major strike to silence him. It elevates his status and leaves the audience and enemy intelligence agencies guessing. The strategic outcome: Iran successfully took an event designed to demoralize them, the successful targeting of a top official, and turned it into a tool to humiliate their adversary. The resurrection of Ali Shamkhani is now a founding myth of the victory narrative, a symbol of the regime's supposed indestructibility. Part 2. The Nuclear Black Box, the standoff between Iran and the IAEA. With the bombs no longer falling, the most critical battle has now shifted to the nuclear sites themselves. The central conflict is between Iran's desire to conceal and the international community's need to verify. Iran's decision to ban the IAEA is a bold and dangerous move in this new phase. 2.1. Iran's Cloak of Darkness strategy. The announcement of an entry ban for IAEA Director Grossi and the refusal to allow surveillance cameras is a deliberate plot to create a black box around its nuclear program. The plot: to deny the West and the IAEA any ground truth information about the state of its nuclear program, thereby seizing control of the information environment and creating new leverage. The intentions to conceal the true damage. Iran does not want IAEA inspectors providing an independent, credible battle damage assessment, BDA. If the damage is severe, it contradicts their victory narrative. If the damage is minimal, it might invite further strikes. By blocking access, they control all information. To hide reconstitution efforts. This is the most critical intention. Iran is almost certainly engaged in a frantic effort to salvage equipment, clean up sites, and most importantly, move materials and centrifuges to new, undeclared, and even more deeply buried locations. They cannot allow IAEA inspectors to witness and document this activity. To punish the IAEA, the public criticism of Grossi and the suspension of cooperation is retaliation for what Tehran sees as the IAEA's complicity with the West. It's a message. You did not protect us, so you lose your access. To create a new bargaining chip, access for the IAEA now becomes a major concession that Iran can trade in future negotiations. They will likely demand sanctions relief or other political guarantees in exchange for restoring the inspection regime. 2.2. The Great Uranium Mystery, the Known Unknown. The critical question, as Grossi admits, is the location of the 408 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. This is the single most dangerous element of the entire crisis. The nightmare scenario, the fact that the IAEA does not know where this material is, whether it was destroyed, damaged, or successfully moved, is a catastrophic intelligence failure for the West. This material is the bomb in the basement. If Iran successfully moved it to a new, secret, undeclared facility, it could theoretically work on weaponization completely outside the view of any international observer. The dueling assessments. This uncertainty explains the vast gulf between Trump's optimistic claim of setting the program back by decades and Grossi's terrifying assessment that they could be producing enriched uranium again in a few months. Trump's assessment, likely based on the physical destruction of the known facilities, Fordow, Natanz. From a purely infrastructure point of view, the damage may indeed take years to fully repair. Grossi's assessment, based on the fact that the material and the knowledge still exist. If Iran has centrifuges and the uranium stockpile hidden elsewhere, it is a much smaller step to set up a new, smaller, clandestine enrichment cascade. This uncertainty is now the central feature of the nuclear standoff. The US is supporting the IAEA's crucial verification efforts precisely because it is flying blind. Part 3. The Savior-Aggressor, Deconstructing the Trump Doctrine. President Trump's statements in the aftermath of the conflict are a fascinating and complex performance of coercive diplomacy. He is simultaneously playing the role of the merciful savior who prevented a wider war and the ruthless aggressor who is ready to strike again. This is a deliberate good cop, bad cop routine played by a single actor. 3.1. Point. The savior narrative. I saved his life. Trump's repeated claims that he saved Khamenei's life and stopped what was supposed to be a very grim outcome are a key part of this plot. The plot, to establish a personal psychological dominance over the Iranian supreme leader and to position himself as a magnanimous, powerful figure who holds the fate of his enemies in his hands. The intentions, to humiliate and belittle Khamenei. This is a direct response to Khamenei's claim of having slapped the face of the US. Trump's retort is, "You didn't slap me, I spared you. You are alive because I allowed it." It is an attempt to strip Khamenei of his agency and dignity, to create a debt. By saving him, Trump is creating a psychological debt. The implicit message is, you owe me. The next time we negotiate, remember that I held your life in my hands and chose mercy. You should therefore be more accommodating. To appeal to a dovish domestic audience, this narrative also plays to those in the US who fear another Middle Eastern war. It allows Trump to say, I am tough, but I'm also the one who prevents World War III. I am a peacemaker. 3.2. The aggressor narrative. Ready to consider bombing Iran again. Juxtaposed with the savior narrative is the constant explicit threat of renewed military action, the plot to establish clear, brutal red lines and to maintain maximum coercive pressure on Tehran, the intentions to deter reconstitution, the threat to bomb again if Iran enriched uranium to a worrying level is a direct message to the Iranian scientists who are currently trying to rebuild the program. It is an attempt to deter them from restarting the most provocative aspects of their work. To justify the initial strike, The claim that the strikes devastated the program and set it back by decades is the justification for the action taken. It is a declaration of overwhelming success, designed for a domestic audience and to counter any suggestions that the operation was ineffective. To maintain leverage, by never ruling out another attack, Trump keeps Iran in a constant state of fear and uncertainty. This is the stick that accompanies the carrot of his mercy. He wants Iran to believe he is unpredictable and capable of anything, a classic application of the madman theory. The combined effect, the savior-aggressor doctrine, is designed to keep Iran completely off balance. It is a psychological assault intended to break the will of the Iranian regime, forcing them into a position where they feel they have no choice but to negotiate on Trump's terms. The description of Iran as an exhausted nation that still wanted to meet is the desired outcome of this strategy, to bring a battered and confused opponent to the negotiating table. Grand synthesis, a new and dangerous standoff. The intelligence, when synthesized, reveals that the 12-day conflict did not resolve anything. Instead, it has reset the board and initiated a new, more dangerous, and more psychologically intense phase of the conflict. The information war is the primary battlefield. The physical war has been replaced by a war of narratives. Iran is using the politics of martyrdom and the resurrection of its leaders to claim a spiritual victory. The US is using the savior-aggressor narrative to claim both military dominance and diplomatic mercy. The control of perception is now the main effort for both sides. The nuclear black box is the central risk. Iran's decision to ban the IAEA and conceal its activities has created a massive intelligence vacuum. The West does not know the true extent of the damage or, more critically, the location of the bomb-making material. This uncertainty dramatically increases the risk of miscalculation. Israel or the US might be forced to act on incomplete intelligence in the future, potentially striking a target based on suspicion rather than proof. Coercive diplomacy is the new norm. The conflict has moved beyond traditional diplomacy. It is now a contest of raw coercion. The US coerces with the threat of renewed bombing. Iran coerces with the threat of a nuclear breakout and by blocking inspections. Israel coerces with the threat of unilateral, overwhelming force. This is a high-stakes poker game where the currency is existential threat, a fragile and unstable peace. The current ceasefire is not peace. It is a tense, unstable standoff. Iran is defiant, feeling it has survived the worst. The US is confident, feeling it has re-established deterrence. Israel is impatient, feeling the job is not yet finished. This is not a recipe for long-term stability. The overture is over, and all sides are now preparing for the next act, armed with new narratives, new grievances, and a profound and mutual mistrust that makes a genuine diplomatic solution seem more remote than ever. The critical question remains unanswered and is now unanswerable by inspectors. Where is the uranium?